we have one special guest with us who is an artist based in Vienna. We'd like to share with everybody how it is that you, as an artist and as a person, came about to this particular means and ways of actually expressing yourself.
Well, I specialize actually in a special technique called thread art, where, like you can see in the background, I normally use colored lustrous threads to create any desirable picture that I want to arrive at. And basically, I get, I normally use my message is about the society of the African, or the African society, and it includes the other societies as well. I paint. I also do textile art. I am specialized in actually batik and any kind of textile design as well.
Although Brian is a multi-talented artist, for now he wants to focus on trade art. The reason is that he wants to save this old African craftwork from its distinction. He tries to explain to Lauren the technique in more detail.
Normally with a thread art, it's a bit difficult to work on because, like you see, it's just like, I weave that with machine, but it's actually, false. I do that with my fingers. Normally people watch it and they asking me, how do you do this? And they think, I did that with some embroidery machine kind of, but I do that with the fingers. And like I said, you need to train your patience. That's what art will do for you.
It's a discipline.
It's a discipline. And, to be able to translate your mind into a picture, that's all the trick, And so, like I did say, we have different mediums. We have different means. You have different methods. But then I choose, like thread art. Sometimes I paint. Sometimes I'm even singing or cooking, doing all these different aspects.
What I am very interested in is the actual, the thread, the fiber that you're using. It's very lustrous. Why in particular this lustrous thread that you're using for the art pieces?
Basically, I would say the lustrous threads, they are silky threads which have been dyed into the different colors, using acrylic. And what happened is that, when you use the shining threads or the lustrous threads, in the movement, because in creating this thread, I try to glue the threads onto the background to form the pictures. And I move the threads in different directions. So the lustrous effect, after when you finish the picture, in the movements from the different directions, it also adds up a bit to the visual quality.
Where does the whole manifestation of creativity stem from? When you're actually working on a piece, are you a trained artist in terms of drawing? Before you create, all of those kind of things do come into play, because it's quite clear that you're a very, very talented artist.
Basically, my inspiration comes from nature, I give thanks to the Most High Almighty, for making me and for making any other person on earth. And what we have to do as human beings is to be creative. The world now is more directed towards it's in the direction of distraction. And for me, instead of being destructive, I try to rather be creative, because that is what moves life on. So, yeah, basically my inspiration comes from, again, like I did say, my African background, where normally even the way we cook, the way we wash, the way we eat, the way we speak, the way we dance, it's all about creativity. And so all these movements, and when you study all these patterns in life, then you have more than unlimited, sources of creation. And so that is, for me, the basic.
One of the pictures which has inspired Brian to put his African origin in is this one.
Cry Freedom is actually my first work in thread art, and I'm always proud to say that, because, for me, I love this, and I've traveled the whole world around with this picture. It's been in different magazines on different platforms, because I always have to, explain that kind of, freedom that we're still crying for. As an African, from generations until now, we have been still considered as third-class citizens of creation. and we have been given all kind of subtitles, which for me, I can coin into simply that, because as a people of the first race, as people who really define or really give meaning to life from the inception, we are not considered, especially in this time of life, as contributors, as, makers of civilization. And for me, it's just, a pity. But yeah, again, I want to show to the world, or I ask the question, why should the African basically cry or beg for what is already his?
Brian continues by speaking about his country, Ghana.
Looking at my society, a lot of, interesting aspect. It's not projected, it's rather the negative that is projected about Africa, normally about diseases, about warfares, about destruction and all that, which normally is just the very minute aspect of life, which we can even ignore and make life go on very progressively. And so for me, I love to, just focus or emphasize or bring out, that interesting bit.
The next artwork of Brian should exactly show us another Africa, one that we might sometimes like to ignore in the Western world.
This is showing Africa with its crown and with its, full presentation of beauty. So it is just for me to remind the world that Africa has so much potential, and we should begin raping the continent of Africa. But rather, we should, contribute to that continent to make the cradle of humankind more livelier than it is today.
Reacting to the imbalance of power between the Western world and the African continent, Lauren is posing a quite interesting question to Brian.
If white was a color, right, what dimension would it actually create?
If white was a color. Wow. Well, normally in art, we say white is not a color. Exactly. So now turning the same concept back, I don't know what to say, but normally I need art, I need white in my, creation, because normally without white, I really cannot do a lot, I cannot really create the impression sometimes without. So every color in this, universe is very, very important. Some play much more important, or some play more important roles than the others, depending on your desire, depending on the individual interest. So it's nothing of complexity. It's nothing of separation or one above the other. But I feel that every color is just important, just like every material is equally important.
My pet. Funnily, he is playing with differences between his origin and countries in Europe like Austria when it comes to the keeping of animals.
The zebra for us is a watch animal. So normally we say the zebras are the guards, and they protect us. So yeah, and normally the zebras also have very beautiful design. Nature has endowed, on the zebra as an individual animal, and everybody loves the zebra design. And the zebra is even used on the roads to mean that you should, there's a point where you have to cross the road, So I love the zebra very much, and I believe everybody else does. So, well, in Europe, a lot of people adopt the dogs as their pet, but in Africa, when you come, we have very various and very diverse ways of doing things. So instead of just sticking to a particular way of doing things, like we all will adopt lions, no. We all will not adopt dogs, no. We all will not adopt probably the turtle, but, depends on the individual interest. You might want to adopt anything for yourself. So I say, well, the zebra is my pet, even though I'm a lion.
What is your interpretation of this?
Well, I call this one Dream World. It's still not finished after 6 years. Sometime I, just wake up and have dream about this picture. And it will interest you to know I began this 6 years ago when I first actually landed in Austria. Salzburg was my base then. So this work was begun in Salzburg, Austria. And today it's being completed in Vienna, Austria, same way, and it's taken more than, 5 years. I'll actually say this in a 6th year. And I just did something this very week. I added a little, dimension to it to make more meaning. Well, normally when people sleep, for me, as a normal person, when I sleep, I have dreams. And well, depending on how you might see dreams, I see dreams sometimes as positive reflections of life. So, yeah, in my dreams, I see so many different aspects. It could be negative, it could be positive, but sometimes, like we say, you need even the negative to acknowledge the positive. So negativity is not necessarily a bad factor in life. The only thing is that you need even the negative to be able to acknowledge the positive. So take it as it comes to you, the way you want it, the way you see it. But it's not everything that we see in reality stays the same like we see it.
This sculpture, Brian, is a very, very unique piece as well. Very beautifully done. What is the title of this piece?
Well, this one is untitled because it's in collaboration with another artist, actually. Yeah, this actually was created about between 8 to 9 years ago from Ghana, where I saw a sculptor working on this piece, or he did a similar piece like this, and it was just the face of the elephant. So I came up with this idea to represent the story of my country, Ghana, in this face of Africa, you see it, or the face of Ghana, I call it probably, even though it's untitled, yeah? This is the face of the elephant, for which I have put some sculpture, and then it's been designed with coins, and these coins actually represent the different eras of Ghana's rule. So we have from the pre-colonial days, that it used to be called the British West Africa. And so we had the British West African pound. When I grew to, find out about this, story, or about this knowledge of my past, I really wondered, how come as Africans as we are described first when it comes to spirituality, they say we are barbaric or idol worshippers. Like you see on the top, there is a figure in metal under this umbrella. This is actually an umbrella, and that is, a figure of a man. And the man has in his hand two cutlasses. We used to, be warriors. And so, like from the Ashanti tribe, we say, Ukum apima apimbeba, which simply or directly translated means if you kill 1,000, 1,000 will rise. So we are people who never know no defeat. We've always been in conquest, in, wars and whatever, from the days of Chaka the Zulu right through to, until our present generation. But the unfortunate thing is that the world has a rather negative story, about, we Africans, and then, narrow it down to the society Ghana. So then I try to, portray the history in the different times of my country through this sculpture.
Thank you, Brian, for having us at your studio this afternoon. It's really been wonderful, going through this treasure of art that you have here. And yes, may you continue being creative and putting out much more than what we have seen. Look forward to the exhibition itself, and come one, come all.